Chandra X-ray Observatory is under threat of being significantly cut because of NASA budget cuts, and 9 members of Congress have submitted a letter to NASA asking that they reconsider. So my name is Laura Forsick. I'm the executive director of Astrolytical, which is a space consulting firm, and my background is in astrophysics and planetary science, specifically high energy astrophysics, that is X-rays. So this topic is near and dear to my heart and the hearts of other astronomers who rely on telescopes, observatories like Chandra, which is one of the great observatories, for their research. It is one of 2 great observatories left, and the other one is not doing so well either right now. You might have heard of Hubble. You know, they're both doing great, but they're both under strain. So I want to talk about Chandra in particular because 9 members of Congress, 8 from Massachusetts, 1 from Washington, all Democrats, which is actually surprising because usually these letters are bipartisan. This is a telescope that has a lot of ties to Massachusetts, specifically the Harvard-Smithsonian Institute for Astrophysics. And the reason why this is important, that we should pay attention to what Congress is asking NASA to do, is because Congress is the one that funds NASA. So NASA can say to Congress, we only need this amount for Chandra X-ray Observatory. But Congress can go ahead and say, no, we're going to give you what we gave you last year, or we're going to give you more or less, or not as much of a cut, or Congress can do whatever it likes when it comes to the budget, essentially. They have to agree between the Senate and the House, and the subcommittees need to be agreed upon. It's a process. And it is a process of compromises, and it is a process where a champion in Congress or several champions can really make a difference. I want to talk about what you can do that can make a difference, but I'll talk about that at the end of the video. So why is this important? Because as of right now, there isn't a replacement for Chandra X-ray Observatory. There are proposed replacements, but there is nothing that has been selected and that is being developed or manifested for launch. And these telescopes take so long. They have really advanced instrumentation. They usually have really long lead times because everything is customized. So everything takes a long time to design, build, test. And so when you're thinking about the whole process of creating a space observatory, and everything needs to go right, and even the ones that can be serviced, like Hubble could be serviced and has been serviced, even those, you want everything to go right. You don't want another embarrassment like when Hubble was launched and they had that problem with the X-ray mirrors, the lens, and you don't want that kind of embarrassment on a super expensive, really high-profile telescope. So these things take a very long time to design and build. So if you're thinking Chandra is 25 years old, why don't they just replace it? Well, they're looking to do that. And that is actually a recommendation by several different committees. But there isn't any firm commitment right now for there to be a X-ray replacement. So what we have right now are 2 great observatories still left. We got Chandra and we got Hubble. And there were some others that, over the years have ended their lifetimes. But Chandra X-ray Observatory is still doing great science. The reason why it was targeted by NASA for potential cuts was because when it was proposed to be cut, there were certain things that were not operational, but those things are back online. And so the claims that Chandra is just not doing as good a science as it used to are actually no longer valid claims. So there is a whole scientific community that is rallying around Chandra. Go to savechandra.org, and the link is in the video description below, and go ahead and read up on why this is so important to the X-ray community, to the X-ray astronomy community, that is. When you're thinking about why do we even need a big space observatory when we have lots of telescopes here on Earth, there are certain frequencies that do not go through our atmosphere, that we really need to have an observatory in space that can observe what we're really seeing before it filters through our atmosphere. And especially those high energy gamma rays, X-rays. I mean, our atmosphere does a fantastic job of blocking that from harming us. But it does mean that we need to go above Earth's atmosphere. We need to go to space in order to check these things out. And there is so much that we can learn about our universe by observing X-rays, and especially observing X-rays in collaboration with other wavelengths, in correlation, I should say, with other wavelengths and other observatories. So Chandra is often partnered together with other observatories such as Hubble, but also such as James Webb Space Telescope and some of these other ones, smaller observatories as well, so we can get a better idea, especially things like black holes. Black holes are a constant source of curiosity for us, and the more that we can observe them with different wavelengths, the more we can truly learn about what they are. This is why taxpayers, presumably, are funding organizations like NASA so that we can study these fundamental questions that we have about our universe and the world around us. And so that is why these telescopes are built. These are why these telescopes continue to be funded throughout these decades. When we talk about the two great observatories that are left, Hubble right now is under a lot of scrutiny because I debated how much to get into it in this video because this is a separate topic. It's a separate video in itself. Let me know in the comments if you want me to get deeper into this. But basically, it's losing gyroscopes. It's having some issues. It's going too low in altitude. It needs to be reboosted at some point. NASA is saying Hubble is still doing really great science and we don't want anyone to touch it just in case that something gets messed up and it can't do the great science that it's doing anymore. But at the same time, NASA is proposing huge cuts to Chandra X-ray Observatory, which is still doing great science, and is just claiming that, they're claiming that it's not a cancellation, that they're just cutting down the budget. That seems like a contradiction, right? They don't want to touch Hubble even though Hubble needs help, but they do want to cut Chandra even though Chandra's doing great. The reason why they need to make these hard decisions in the first place is because Congress has enacted budget constraints. And NASA is really feeling that pinch. And it's not just NASA, it's a lot of federal agencies that are feeling the limitations of what the budget is right now. The fact that we have gone through inflation and therefore $1 last year and the year before no longer is equal to $1 today. So there's definitely constraints in terms of price increases and inflation and just the fact that things are very expensive. Chandra's not asking for a pay increase. they're asking for this essentially the same budget to keep on doing the great science that it's been doing. Chandra, the scientists are asking NASA to ask for the same amount that NASA asked for the previous year, which is almost $70 million, $68.7 million. $70 million is not a lot when you look at different NASA programs and you see how much NASA is spending. $70 million is not not a ton of money comparatively here. And NASA is proposing a 40% cut on what they got last year. And that is devastating, especially the X-ray astronomy community. It would just be devastating. Here's what you can do. If you are a U.S. citizen, you have the right to contact your elected representatives and ask them to fund Chandra. Ask them to put pressure on NASA to fund Chandra, but they don't even need to put pressure on NASA. They can just do whatever they want when it comes to the budget. Even if your elected member of Congress is not in any specific committee that can really make it a direct influence, they can still have an indirect influence on their fellow senators or representatives. They can do things behind the scenes to try to make things happen. Talk to your congressperson, talk to your two senators, and by talk to, I mean either call them or write them. Their email addresses are freely available. Their phone numbers are freely available. I mean, if you can go in person, that's the best, but not everyone can get to Washington, D.C. That is what I highly recommend that you do if you are a U.S. citizen. Again, it's not NASA who decides the budget. It is Congress who decides the budget. And if you want more information, SaveChandra.org is a website that is run by individuals. It's not run by any organization. It is run by individuals who care about this issue. So go ahead and read the information there, and they've also got instructions on how you can take action to help with this issue.